Hey everyone, you're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. We're chatting about how to get the most out of life.
And covering a ton of interesting topics.
So there's sure to be something.
For just about everyone. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I'm Amy. In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about essentialism.
Essentialism, not existentialism.
No.
Essentialism.
Essentialism.
That would be a completely different podcast.
And it's a book I recently finished, and it's one I've been wanting to read for quite some time, but recently I've just heard it everywhere.
What is the name of the book?
Essentialism.
Oh, it's just the word essentialism.
I know,
okay,
ironically
I'm sorry.
it's essentially essentialism.
Okay.
And the quote for this episode is, "Decide what's really important to you, then say no to everything else."
So only do what's important to you.
Exactly.
That's a really great way to live your life, I would say. Doesn't it sort of echo Marie Kondo's philosophy with Marie Kondo's whatever she does? What is it called again?
Tidying up.
Marie's tidying up, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it kind of is. It's like if it doesn't spark joy, then get rid of it in your life.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great analogy. And the quote itself is from the author Greg McKeown.
Okay.
And the book became so popular, it's really an entire movement. People define themselves as essentialists. So I was excited to do this podcast because a lot of times I read these personal development books and I go through them and I have all these aha moments.
Yes.
But then I put them down, I move on to the next book, and I don't really take a lot of time to digest what I've read and reflect.
You've got to unfold what it is that you've read.
Yes, unfold. I like the arm gestures that the listeners don't get to see.
Well, you'll get a picture of it maybe in our Instagram or something. Unfold.
Unfold.
Yeah.
But I think part of when we do a podcast, it forces me to go back and really think about what I pulled from the book. So it is a really jam-packed book that I would encourage you, the listeners, if this is something once you listen through and you hear some of the things that I pulled out and how I feel they'll benefit my life, that you'll consider, picking up the book and reading it yourself, because I can't even delve into how much great information there is into this.
It's a book jam-packed with amazing information that you absolutely devoured. You read that book in 2 days, didn't you? I don't think I've ever seen you read a book faster than that, to be honest.
I did. It went by fast.
That's incredible.
And
I haven't read it, but you know what? I'm going to be the guinea pig, and tell me about it. Tell me all about this. What is essentialism?
Well, the subtitle for the book is "The Disciplined Pursuit of Less."
Okay,
and that's essentially what essentialism is.
How is it different than minimalism?
Well, minimalism is actually very different. I'm going to get into that.
Okay, cool.
So
I'm jumping ahead.
Let me just start with, have you ever felt like you're being really busy and time is flying by, but you're not really accomplishing that much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time.
I mean, that happens to me.
I think everybody feels that.
Oftentimes I'll go through a work day and quite literally I'll send out 60 or 70 emails, or maybe it's a day full of meetings and you're sitting through hours of meetings. And at the end of the day, if someone were to ask me, what did you do today? I couldn't quickly give them an answer.
Right.
This is the thing I accomplished.
Pretty much a billion things, but not one of those billion things really, sets itself apart from any other thing.
Well, I think because our energy is pushed into so many different directions that we're not focused on one particular thing. So we do become very busy and not always as, focused and productive as we can be. And essentialism is not about getting more things done, but it's about getting the right things done.
The right things done so that you can spend time doing other things that you enjoy, right?
Well,
get those things done, get those essential things done so you don't waste time doing other things.
Well, no, and actually what it means is that the essential things are the things you want to do.
Oh.
So it's sort of cutting away.
But what if work
else
is not something you want to do at all? You can just cut it all out.
Well, then I don't know. That's a different scenario. That's a
so
whole
funny.
different podcast of what it is.
It's true.
I mean, I gave work as an example, but I mean, that can be true of any portion of your life.
Yeah. That
you can be absorbed in, doing all of these, what are maybe trivial tasks, and not really focusing on the things you want to do. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens that we'll talk about. But I'm actually going to jump straight into the definition
All
for
right.
this episode. And it'll be the definition of essentialism. So if you were to look it up on Wiki, they would define essentialism as the people. They are the people at Wiki.
Oh, yes. The people at
All
Wiki
those people who contribute to Wiki.
Yes.
Which is, I guess, everybody. Essentialism is a view that every entity has a set of attributes that are necessary to its identity and function. So,
That's pretty technical.
but then if you look at the definition from the author, which really gets into what the idea of essentialism is as a movement, or to be an essentialist, he feels the most fitting definition of essentialism is less but better.
Less but better.
So the book isn't about getting back to like simpler times. It's not about like extreme minimalism or anything like that, or even, it's not about cutting out all of your social media or going backwards. It's just about really having a systematic approach and figuring out where you can make the highest contribution in life, and being able to focus on activities that point toward that highest contribution rather
that
than
makes sense.
spread yourself too thin.
So really it is a prioritizing your life so that you can live a simpler life. Would that be like a good synopsis of what essentialism is?
It's definitely about prioritizing your own life rather than leaving other people to do it for you.
Yes.
So, there's 3 deeply entrenched assumptions that are mentioned in this book that you need to conquer if you want to live more of an essentialist lifestyle.
Okay.
And those assumptions are that I have to, that it's all important, and that I can do both. That a lot of times people try to fit it all in, particularly in
They really do.
They try to find extreme efficiencies to be able to get, maybe they get their kids into all of the activities they want to do, or, they want to try to squeeze in a
Groceries
date night
in
and then
between.
an evening meeting at the same time. And,
Yeah.
but with essentialism, it needs to be, those types of assumptions need to be replaced with I choose to, only a few things really matter, and I can do anything, but not everything.
So what are the first steps to becoming an essentialist? Or am I jumping ahead? I'm jumping ahead, aren't I?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but it's really about changing your mindset about how you approach everything in life. And
so you have to have that inner dialogue.
Yes.
Really. Yeah.
Well, I think we all have an inner dialogue.
We do. Yeah. Some people.
Do you?
Yes. Sometimes it's outer dialogue to myself. What are you going to do now, Jeff? I don't know, Jeff.
The mystery of Jeff.
Yeah.
I think we all do have an inner dialogue, and I think with any of these types of books or new things that we want to integrate in our daily life, it is about how we have to have a conscious thought, a conscious approach to how we do everything in our daily, and just rethink it. Not just go on autopilot and continue to do things the way we've always done. Otherwise, we're not going to see change. There was actually a quote or a reference in the book that really struck a chord with me, and it was he referenced an Australian nurse named Bronnie Ware, but she cared for people who were in palliative care.
Okay.
And she said at the top of the list of regrets that she would hear is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And I know that, I've heard this before too. My own mother has said this to me, that nobody's ever on their deathbed and says that they wish they'd worked more.
That's true.
It's
Yes.
it's not how we just fill our hours.
We've always had that
what
philosophy.
do we accomplish?
Together, as far as a family, it's much more beneficial and memorable to go on a family trip than to buy something, in particular for the family or something. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
right.
make memories.
If you're talking about collecting experiences versus things, and which is another aspect of where do you place value, where do you place your focus.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about things that we're doing in life, one of the problems that a lot of us have is that we just surrender our ability to choose for ourselves. And we let other people come in and steal our time.
It's true.
And we're reluctant to say no.
Yeah.
And we often will just make commitments that we, don't really want to be involved in. I don't know if
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. It's a kind of a liberating thing, actually, when you can center out, prioritize your time to do what you really love to do. Aside from your family, just something just for you. Like, for example, when I go on runs and stuff like that, like, I feel good about myself. It makes me feel good. When I do my art, it makes me feel good, right? But like, it's not like I want to get away from the family or anything, but like, it's important to do things for yourself, I guess.
Well, and I think as I get older, I feel even more so my time is limited.
Yeah.
And I think my greatest source of frustration is when I'm involved in an activity or doing something that I don't really want to be doing.
Yeah.
That I feel, that I've been pushed into doing by somebody else, and it wasn't my choice. And so I know personally, as I've grown older, I can say no to things much easier. And that doesn't always come easily, but it is something that you have to do to protect the time to do, like you said, to be able to go for a run. And
I think we all as human beings want to live full and valuable lives, meaning it's valuable to you. You love your life, and to say yes to those things that you really love to do and no to those things that hold you back are exactly what everybody should do. But there are always outside forces that make it so difficult for that to happen sometimes.
Well, one of the things that's mentioned in the book is just, the real importance of realizing you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And given the reality of trade-offs, we can't choose to do everything.
No.
There just isn't enough time. So the real question is not how can we do it all. It is who will get to choose what we do and don't do. And so when we forfeit our right to choose, someone else will choose for us. So we can either be deliberate and choose what not to do and allow ourselves to be pulled in directions we don't want to go, which is, like I said, it can be a great source of frustration. And a lot of people just feel obligated. It's a sense of obligation, not wanting to disappoint, social pressures. There's a lot of reasons why we allow that to happen. And sometimes we just lose our ability to filter what is important. And we just automatically say yes, we get into routine.
Right.
And we participate in things that just suck away our time. So to become an essentialist really requires a heightened awareness of that ability to choose. And one of the great quotes that I liked from the book was of, directly from the author is, if it isn't a clear yes, it's a clear no.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us will default to that. And he does go through the book and give some examples of how to avoid
How do you avoid
committing.
the maybe?
How do you give that soft no?
How do you avoid the maybe?
The maybe. Well, and a maybe isn't necessarily a bad thing. A maybe is a better answer than a reflexive yes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's let me check my calendar and get back to you. And it'll give you time to think about whether it's something you really want to do.
Yes.
Or if it's something that we're already committed to, there's something that's known as, have you ever heard of sunk cost bias?
No.
And this is referred to, I think Marie Kondo talked about it when we don't want to get rid of something in our home. But even if we're, say you're in the middle of doing a craft or a project and you've already invested a lot of time into it, but it really just isn't going where you want it to go.
Right.
But there becomes this reluctance to just stop doing it because you're so focused on the time and energy you've already put into it. Yeah. But there are sunk costs, and it's so we don't want to lose that investment. Instead, we end up wasting more time toward it.
Not always, though, because I could use the scenario like when I'm making a piece of art and it's like I've been working on it for an hour and then it's just like I hate it. I don't like it at all. I am so stubborn that I won't just like rip it up and start a new piece. I will work on it until I like it. Like I will literally put the time in until I like it. And I won't stop until I like it. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that's exactly...
Sorry, I just picture you like just layers and layers of paint.
Yeah. That's sometimes it comes down to that.
Well, I guess I'm thinking more, those long-term, projects. For instance, maybe you're spending time learning a new skill. Maybe you're taking carpentry, lessons or
It's
classes.
good to be persistent, though.
Right. And you've paid for 20 classes and you're 8 classes in and you just like, I hate this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
I don't like this. I'm not good at it. It's not something that comes easily for me.
This is not for me.
It's not
I want
giving me
out.
enjoyment that I thought it would. Do you just keep going because you paid the money for the classes, or do you just...
I imagine a lot of people do that at university.
Well,
they're just like, oh, well, it's already paid for. I'm just going to play cards in the cafeteria, when I should be at class.
Well, then you've got parents and student loans to contend with.
That's right.
So really, essentialism is about focusing on a vital few things. There's a great quote by Stephen Covey, and I quoted him in our negotiations episodes recently.
Yeah.
But he, definitely a wise man. He said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, don't stray from the main message.
Well, and we get into this idea of prioritizing, but originally the word prioritize wasn't priorities, it was always priority, singular, and came into the English language back in the 1400s.
Wow, you've done some real research for this
Well,
podcast.
this one is, the author did some research on this one, so this is straight from the book. And so originally it meant the very first or prior thing, and it stayed as a singular thing for 500 years. It was only into the 1900s that we started to pluralize it and started talking about priorities.
Really?
And illogically, we reasoned that by changing the word, we could bend reality. Somehow we would now be able to have multiple first things.
Oh, interesting.
And I've often heard this before. People say if everything's a priority, then really nothing is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because you really can only have one first thing. So, you need to figure out what are those priorities or the priority in your life, and focus on that and direct all of your energy toward that one thing, rather than have it be pulled in directions and activities you don't want to engage in. So, edit your life.
Edit your life.
You talked about Marie Kondo, and she talks about clothing specifically as one of the, stages of decluttering that you go through in making your house full of items, full of joy. And in a closet, you often will have a ton of clothing, but you only wear a few pieces, right? But
That's right.
It's cluttered, and you spend a lot of time going through it, organizing it, cleaning clothing that, doesn't really give you joy. And it's an analogy, the idea of editing your closet is an analogy that the author uses in the book, that you want to cut and condense and correct everything in your daily routine, and eventually you'll be focused on only the things that matter most. And actually there's another great quote that from Michelangelo where he said, I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set it free.
Oh, yeah.
Until I set him free. I guess it was a male angel.
Yeah. Well, he's done quite a few sculptures where it appears that the sculpture is stuck within the stone, which is really interesting.
And so, but it is when you think of it as a great visual for when you have, whether it's a cluttered closet or a cluttered life full of activities and commitments, if you really want to get to that angel or to what is most important, you need to carve away everything else and make time for that thing.
That's a really great analogy for it.
So some of the comparisons between a non-essentialist versus an essentialist, I think, helped me get my head around essentialism a little bit more.
I need to get my head around it a little bit better here. I'm understanding it from what you said, but Well, you know what? It's an
interesting concept, and it took me a while, reading through the book to get my head around what it meant. And I was happy to revisit a lot of it just to prepare for this podcast, because it, like I said, it just instilled a lot of the thinking a little bit more deeply in my mindset so that I can implement it in daily life. So a non-essentialist tries to be all things to all people. But an essentialist understands that less but better is a better approach. they will say, I choose to, rather than a non-essentialist saying, I have to. An essentialist will pause to think about what really matters, whereas a non-essentialist will just react to whatever is most pressing.
Right.
And when I was sort of reading through a section on this idea of really pausing to discern what matters most in life, I thought about how much time I spend researching books before I read them.
You do a fair amount of research on books. You only read books you really want to read.
Well, and I read a ton of reviews before I'll choose one, because I know how much time I'm going to spend, going through the pages and it's a real
paying for the book.
Well, yeah. But you know what? The cost of the book is probably the smallest investment you can make into a book. It's the time that you spend reading it. To me, that's the most valuable. So I always spend a lot of time reading reviews, and I've often thought it's a little ridiculous how much time I spend. But in reading this particular book, I came to the conclusion that it does make sense to really take the time to evaluate where you want to spend your resources, spend your time, your energy on the front end, rather than just waste your time. I mean, how many people have gotten into a book and you've read halfway through the book and you don't want, you finish it even though you're not enjoying it?
I think a lot of people do like that sort of precursor of like a research before they buy most things.
Do you?
I do, actually. Like
when you come back from the bookstore with an armful of books, and
I already know what books they are usually. I know the author. I usually, if I know an author that I really like Murakami, if I see one of his books, I know it's going to be good, so I just buy it. I just get it if it's used. But yeah, I mean, if I was to buy like a pair of used speakers on Kijiji or something like that, I would see what model they are and go on to Google and look it up and stuff and see what people think. What kind of reviews these things get. I mean, I'm all over that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm almost believing you.
No, I really do. I'm not even kidding. Like, I do.
Well, sometimes people will say you pay to go to see a movie in a movie theater. Yeah. And halfway through the movie, you're like, this is not a great movie. Have you ever gotten up and walked out?
Oh, I have walked out of one movie, and it was when I was in Korea, and I walked out, I think it was Tomb Raider. It was horrible. It was so bad.
With Angelina Jolie?
Yes. One or two. I don't know. It might have been two.
So you saw the first one and it was okay?
No. No. I did not see the first one. I went with a Korean friend who wanted to really see it, and and they didn't like it either, so we both walked
okay.
out.
I think that's a rare thing, though. I think it's that whole idea of sunk costs. Most people will stay and watch till the end.
I've done that before too with crappy movies, though. I've watched it to the end because you know what? I've seen I've seen movies that I thought were crappy that had incredible endings. So you got to give it a chance.
Well, I know.
Same with books.
As soon as you have that happen once, then you can't not finish anything.
That's right.
You think there could be a surprise twist that makes it all worthwhile at the end.
That's true. It's sometimes the art of the book or the movie is in the very end.
Another concept around essentialism, we'll get back to the topic at hand, is the idea of making space in your life to think and reflect, and how important that can be. So I think in today's lifestyle, where a lot of people feel being busy is a bit of a badge of honor, I'm too busy to meet with you, or my schedule's jam-packed.
That's true. I never thought of it that way, but you're right. Badge of honor. Wow, that's fascinating.
Whereas
it really is.
People see sleep or taking time to rest or reflect as being almost like a weakness.
People do that sometimes, like with drinking, like how much they drank. It's like a badge of honor. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I guess.
But that's a completely different thing. But still, I mean, there's badge of honors for anything.
I guess the badge of honor thread is there, if nothing else.
If nothing else. People have badges of honor for anything.
But I think
I have so many badges, I'm honored.
Where I'm going with this is the idea that, society in general tends to idolize you completely
Go,
throw me
go,
off.
go. No, you go.
All right.
Come on, you can get back on track. Put that
Okay.
train back on track.
Yeah, you're saying that because the trains are going by like crazy tonight. So we've got literal trains and figurative trains happening. No, so I'm just going back to it. The idea of making time in your life to think and reflect is crucial. If you're going to identify what is important, what is your life purpose, where should you focus your energy, you need to take time to figure that out. Bill Gates was notorious for taking, lengths of time off just to read and think, and would completely disengage from his daily work. Why are you rolling your eyes?
The opulence of the rich. Oh, I don't feel like working and take time off to read in the sunshine at my mansion. Anyway,
I think the thing.
I know the point. I know the point
is that even someone as busy as Bill Gates.
I know, and then Mark Zuckerberg only wears the same thing every day because he doesn't need that space cluttered up his mind, right?
Well, decision fatigue is very real thing.
It is
Barack Obama, same thing. He wore the same suit.
It is a very real thing
because one less decision to make means you can focus on things that really matter. If you can make the other things in your life routine, then
what if all the decisions you're making are horrible? Because you're wearing the same thing every day. There's no more room.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you've got amazing outfits every day, and then the rest of your life is just falling to pieces.
Yeah.
Because you spend 6 hours getting dressed.
Exactly.
Back to making time to think and reflect.
Yes.
You ever notice how people will never admit that if you call them and you wake them up.
Oh yeah, I'm like that.
They won't admit that they were sleeping.
Yeah.
Or if they,
I'm just laying here. I'm just resting my eyes.
Just rest.
that one got me. Oh, I'm just resting my eyes. Yeah, sure you are. You were sleeping. I guess that's what sleeping is, resting your eyes, but still.
Well, but people won't admit it. They're like, if you're sitting on the couch and someone looks over and sees you taking a nap, they're, I'm just resting my eyes. I wasn't sleeping.
Where's the shame in sleeping?
I don't know, but there is an extreme, and I think
understand.
it's pretty universal. People will not, and there's also, I've heard people brag about how little sleep they need.
Yeah.
I only need 4 to 5 hours. That's all I need. I'm incredibly productive.
Why would that be something to be proud of?
Well, and I mean, this book also talks about the idea that sleep is crucial. If you want to operate at your highest level, then
I do the opposite. I you know what I mean? I don't brag about only needing 4. I brag about getting 10. You know what I mean?
I slept 16 hours today.
You had a good sleep.
I did.
10-hour sleep or something
well,
like
because
that?
I had a sleep deficit.
Yes, you did.
I'm routinely
You're catching
guilty
up,
of
which
that.
is another...
Well, I do that through the week. I sleep, 6 hours, and it's not. I'm not proud of it. It creates a deficit, and then on the weekend I have to catch up.
Do you ever catch up on sleep though? Do you ever actually catch up?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I do.
I thought that was like
No, sleep deficit is
term.
definitely it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I notice it throughout the week because I routinely
Don't you just get what you need and don't really catch up though? Don't you just get the sleep that you actually need to function?
That's the catching up.
Oh, okay. Then I guess you do catch up then.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I would say more, but it's a clean one. This is a clean rating.
It's a clean rating. Thank you, Apple, for keeping us
All
clean.
Right. Okay. So
normally we swear like longshoremen, so you guys are lucky.
So some of the questions that you can ask yourself if you're trying to figure out, well, what are these things that I should be focusing on, is, what do you feel passionate about? What are you talented at? And, what is there a need for in the world or even just in your community? So I do want to give a takeaway for this episode, and it's just to reflect on your own life and what are the time sucks? What is sucking away your time, and uncommit yourself to at least one of those things, if not more.
Take the time.
Say no.
Define the time suck.
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
Right? No. Am I right? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That's exactly it.
All right.
You're dead on.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
Be sure to check out past episodes and subscribe to keep up with what's new.
You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, and why not leave a review?
You can also follow InfoQuench on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Till next time.